we're going to see Jim Lea. He is a real estate agent here in Chattanooga. He's the team leader of the Lea Team, him and his wife Monique. And the reason I want to pick his brain today is because they've been extremely successful. And I want to know what his habits look like. I want to know kind of where he came from and what his vision is for his family and for his business. Because for me to be successful, I need to surround myself with like-minded individuals who can dream as big as I can dream, and who cast a big vision for their life just like I do. What I want to know is, and I was told early on that if you want to be successful, you need to duplicate systems and habits of the successful people that have done big things. And what I want to know is, why'd you choose, because you've been extremely successful with development and real estate, but why'd you choose to be an entrepreneur, and what's that look like for you, how you got started?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, it goes back to college for me. When I was in college, I wanted to make money, and I thought, hey, the way to make money is to go into computer science. Okay. So like I started going to computer science. I'm like, man, this sucks. I hate this, So I'm like, all right, well then the way to make money is to be a psychologist, So I started going to psychology. I'm like, man, this sucks. Maybe I can mold psychology and computer science together, and I could diagnose and psychoanalyze faulty computers. I'm like, no, that's crazy. That'll never work. So I was really honestly, I was just thinking through the lens of being successful and making a lot of money. Yeah. And so I looked at it and I'm like, hey, in real estate, I can enter in with very few barriers to entry and very little need for, a lot of technical knowledge, and I can start making a lot of money. So to be candid, that's why I chose real estate.
That's awesome. I think that for an entrepreneur, that's why we do what we do. But I think every entrepreneur has a deeper why. So I know your why changes, everybody's does. What was your why when you got started? What was your deep purpose, and what's your deep rooted purpose today?
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that my deep rooted purpose went no further than basically being successful and making money and having just a big name and big reputation out there. Yeah. And where, a little bit about my story, Justin, where that took me really is to the point of marriage failure and relational failure. And when you start having marriage failure or relational failure on any level, you start noticing that all that energy and all that gung-ho and all that entrepreneurial spirit you had to kind of throw at your business, it just goes away. And you don't have that same, just jolt in the morning, because those relationships that are so valuable, they're not there bolstering you, they're not there motivating you, they're not there encouraging you, supporting you, and you're not there really giving into it. It's not this, give and take relationship. And so what happened is I ended up taking my eye off the ball of business for a while and focusing, okay, let me learn how to do a relationship right. Let me learn how to be a servant. Let me learn how to be a great husband. Let me learn what that looks like. How do I serve? How do I love another human being, and add value to their lives, as opposed to just being so focused on taking value. And so when I did that, and really it took several years and was, for me, it was very, very spiritual experience, very biblical based, Jesus Christ based. And so as we did that, I started succeeding in that, and I'm like, man, I don't want to be in business anymore. I want to be in ministry, right? Yeah. And so then for several years I thought, I just want to be in ministry. But over time, basically God didn't allow that to happen, and he kind of kept me stuck in business. And I'm like feeling like I'm in a prison, let me out. I don't want to be in business. It sucked my marriage dry and destroyed everything that I was and everything. It really did. It destroyed everything. But it's not business that was a problem. It was me. It was the way I was doing business. Business is neutral. It's how the person that does it, that they bring their certain color to it. And so what I realized is actually the greatest opportunity that I had to create value and to add value into people's lives was through the route of business and through the route of entrepreneurship. So when those two passions started coming together, it's like, whoa, You mean I can pick back up this passion of entrepreneurship and business and it not be all about me and it not become this monster that eats my soul out from the inside, that I'm just this hungry, money devouring human being, that's even lost his roots of humanity, and I can actually pick it up and like add value into people's lives, and I can be a servant, and I can be a loving human being to others. That's awesome. That's what I want to do. So that's then how I dove back into business with renewed vigor. And if you follow the path of my business, like it was like boom, 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 succeeding. I go through my crisis, boom. Yeah. And then I'm kind of like there stagnating. And then I got a hold of this idea. And then that's where it really started to kind of take off again, but in a whole different way, in a whole different foundation.
That's awesome, man. And like that's more than I expect. Like that's good stuff. And again, I'm coming at this, from a perspective of what can I do to grow my business and grow myself. I'm 31 this year, and just a little bit younger than you, man. And
close.
I need to know what these habits look like for me. And so I think for me, I really had the idea at age 24 to start my own business and to do big things. Mm-hmm. But I failed in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But I looked at those failures as an opportunity to grow instead of just harping on the failure itself. So I say that to ask you obviously have experienced failure through your years of entrepreneurship and through your years of growing your business. What would you say to a new entrepreneur who's looking to do big things, who's looking to start a business, who's looking to grow their current business when it comes to failures?
Yeah. I think for that, I would kind of harken back to a conversation I had recently with President Frank Brock, who's president of Company College, and Brock Candy Company, built that and sold that. And so great entrepreneur, business guy. And then a certain fund called Eventide. And so Eventide is basically this fund. It's these Christian guys, but they're like, hey, we want to go ahead and we want to advise our clients to buy into companies that are good companies, that are kingdom-minded. And what does kingdom-minded look like, and what's that mean? Well, in the world of business, there are two ways a company can function. They can function as either they add value to society or they detract value from society. So let's look at two grocery stores that are doing really, really well and that are profitable. On the one hand, you have Walmart. On the other hand, you have Kohl's. So on Walmart, this number is inexact, but somewhere around 85% of the employees at Walmart are on welfare because Walmart doesn't pay their employees enough. And so they drive profit by extracting value from their employees and not giving back in their employees' lives. And it ends up creating a company that isn't sustainable unless government steps in and puts them on welfare. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah.
So that is a company that Eventide would not invest in. On the other hand, you have a company like Kohl's, which has profit, but they drive their profit through phenomenal employee culture. Their employees on average are paid anywhere from 2.5 times what the average Walmart employee is. They're not on welfare. So they're creating sustainable employees, sustainable families, sustainable jobs for these people, and giving back to the community, and they're adding value to society. So to me, I would ask entrepreneurs, what is your product? What is your mission? What are you doing that is making the world a different place? What need is in the world that is not being met today that your company will meet? That's at the end of the day why business exists. It exists to meet a need and provide a value that is not being provided, that the world would suffer, or the city would suffer, or this group of people would suffer if this need was not met. So that's where I think if entrepreneurs could not make the mistake that I made, and they could have a big why that actually is about giving back and creating value, they can then create a sustainable company whose profits aren't being driven by extracting value, but by giving back value. And that's a sustainable business model right there.
That is good. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, man. Like, I'm serious. That's exactly, those are the kind of things that I want to know.
Yeah, we all need to know that. Yeah.
But one last question, and I'm going to get out of your hair.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's a great question.
From a relationship standpoint, a family, business, and not just a very general, broad answer.
Yeah. So I think for me, that really begins with going back to my family. Okay, so I have to realize that I cannot go out and live A in the world and expect my kids to then live B. They will model what they see me doing. So if they see me on my cell phone 24 hours a day at dinner time, whatnot, then guess what? By the time they're 14, I will not be able to get them off their cell phones. You know, if they see me texting and emailing while I'm driving, they're going to be texting and emailing while they're driving. You know, if they see me sucking and extracting value from society and hoarding it, you know, for myself and my family to just create opportunity for them, then they're going to have the mindset of, hey, we are takers, we are hoarders, we are consumers, we are spenders. And it's like, no, who wants that for their kids, right? What we want for their kids is we want them to be value creators. We want them to be producers. We want them to be givers. We want them to be investors who invest in other people. And so I need to model that. And then what I hope is that in 5 years, my family, I'm starting to see my kids live out of that and walk into that. And that our family as a whole is having an impact on our neighborhood, on our city, on our employees, on our clients, on their friends at school, on the parents at school. And that's the kind of sort of disciple making, you know, value adding sort of relationships that we want to have, because at the end of the day, the only thing that lasts, I think, eternally is relationships. And so that's what I want to be focused on and what I want my kids to be focused on.
That is awesome. There is an old saying, and I forgot who, I think it was Henry Ford or Benjamin, you know, I don't even know if there's even, if what you read on the internet is correct, but there's an old saying. It's like, you are the average of the top 5 people that you surround yourself with.
That's right. That's right.
So that being said, I'm doing everything I can to insert myself in a circle of 5 people who want to dream bigger and have a bigger vision for their lives. Mm-hmm. So could you elaborate a little bit on your circle of influence and the people that you surround yourself and how it's helped you along the way in your journey?
Yeah, I mean, I can simply say that I would not be where I am today if it had not been for the circle of influence that I have. Every opportunity that you have that you would look at and you'd say, that's successful, that's big time right there. Every single one of them. I'm not saying this to be humble. It is like the truth. It comes from the people in my life and only as a result of them. And so I think that what, you know, my wife always talks to us about the kids. It's like, hey, you want to have great friends? Then be a good friend. Mm-hmm. Learn how to be a good friend to people. What does that look like, you know? And live out of that, out of a give, and then see what comes to you when you do that. And great friendships will come to you as a result of that. And so I think that to me, I want to do business with my friends. You know, I want to make friends for business. Like, that's what we were talking about. It's all about relationship. That's what lasts. Relationships are going to last a whole lot longer than this house. This house exists because of the relationships that are going to be formed and birthed and, you know, inside of this house. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so let's use this house as an example of the importance of circle influence and friendships. Okay? This house exists because somebody had land, and that person needed funds, and somebody had funds, right? And then somebody had the ability to sell it, and somebody had the ability to market it, and those people had to come together. All that I was basically the glue that had relationships with each one of those. So basically, I knew the guy that had the land, I knew the guy that had the money, brought them together. I knew the guy that could sell the heck out of this, brought him into it, and I knew the guy that could market it, brought him into it. And this is now a successful community that's going to house 90 people in an amazing spot downtown. It's the largest master plan community that North Chattanooga or downtown has ever seen, and it happens simply by virtue of relationship and circle of influence. That's why our houses are so paramount, because of that. But to add to that, what I would say is that you're exactly right, that we are who we surround ourselves with. And so part of what we want to look at is the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. What do they lift up? What do they value? Not what do they say with their words that they value, but what do they actually value with their time, their resources, their treasure? And then are those the same things you value and want to value? Because if you surround yourself around, we're communal relational beings, so we will end up looking like the community that we surround ourselves with. So do they value what you value? Is that the path you want to go on? Andy Stanley wrote a great book, if you haven't read it, Principle of the Path. Okay. You cannot violate the principle of the path, just like you cannot violate the principle of gravity. You might say, I believe I can fly, and you jump off a building. You will not fly. You will fall to your death, right? You cannot violate a principle. Yeah. The principle of the path is the same way. It's like, yes, everybody else has been on this path has ended up there, but not me. I'm striking out on new territory, and it's going to turn out differently for me. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Okay. So let's chart out the long-term path where you're going and the relationships that you have, and let's say, hey, are those relationships and those people ending up where you want to be? If not, then create new relationships and better ones.
Wow, that's a good way to look at it, man. Always appreciate your perspective. And this place is amazing. And
Thanks.
people are talking about these houses. You know what I mean?
Thanks.
Like, my wife is looking at them.
Sweet. Yes, bring her. Come on. We want to talk with her. Bring her. We got Kelly right here, ready to talk with her. So.
No, we love it, man. And I love watching new listings pop up and new
Sweet.
developments I hear from you guys. You're doing big things, man. Keep crushing it.
Thanks.
You're always going to have a fan right here following you and just looking up to you, man. I appreciate you.
Same back to you, man. Yeah, look up to you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, man.